Good morning, everybody. Shef Baruch V'Atzluche. Parashat Yitro. In Parashat Yitro, we have Kabbalat Torah, Aseret HaDivrot, unbelievable parsha. But one of the interesting points is to see, we hear Vayishma Yitro. Yitro, he heard, what did he hear? What happened with Am Yisrael, with the God and Am Yisrael. Wow. He was unbelievable and he came. But listen, there are three that heard the same thing and acted in a different way. The reaction was different. We say every day in Shirat Hayam, which we did it last week in the Parsha, אז נבהלו על עופי אדום, אלי מואב יחזם ורעת, נמוגו כל יושבי כנען, תיפול אליהם אימתה ופחד, בגדול זרעך ידמו כאבן. So all the nations around got feared, frightened from what they heard, what God did. Wow, did they do anything about it? They heard it. Did they do anything about it? Nothing. From the other side, the end of the Parsha, we see Amalek. Amalek comes and fight against, after all what happened, all the miracles, he comes and fight against Am Yisrael. And this is our biggest war, Milchama Hashem Amalek midor ledor, the war with Amalek, on the one who heard, and the reaction was the right reaction, the good reaction that we have a lot to learn of. It's the first Ger Tzedek. He looked for the truth. He was seeking for the truth. He went through all the idols. He was worshipping all the idols in the world. And then he saw what happened with the Kodesh Baruch Hu. He says, that's it. He heard what happened and he came and became a part of Am Yisrael. And this is the Amalek that we got inside, the Pharaoh that we have inside, those nations that hear all the miracles and do nothing that we have inside. And we have also Yitro, that hears and acts accordingly. And this is our job, to hear in the right way. When you go on the road and suddenly you hear a peep behind you and somebody, you hear the noise of the car, so you go away because you imagine to yourself that there is a car behind. And this is, by the way, one of the interesting points of Veroim et hakolot. How can you see the voice? You hear something, you imagine to yourself what it's all about. When you hear an ambulance, you know that there is an ambulance coming behind you and you have to let him go. So, in other words, lirot et hakolot, to see the voices in Aseret HaDivrot, is a lot of meanings. One of the things is that they got to such a high level that they felt what it's all about, that they see in their imagination what is the meaning of all those 10 commandments. There is also this Guggenheim guy, I told you before, that he did a very interesting test. He took the Hebrew letters and he put them on a seismograph or whatever you call it, and he talked to the instrument, says Aleph, and the instrument did the Aleph. He tried it with a lot of languages, it didn't work. Only with Hebrew it worked. So in other words, Ro'im et hakolot, the voices, they have a wave when they go in the air, and they got to a level that they could see the letters in the air, whatever. I'm not going into it. It's very interesting, this test that he did, that he tried the Hebrew letters and he saw them. No, they were not, I saw that the test, they were not exactly the beautiful letters, but you see Aleph, Bet, Gimel, because maybe didn't pronounce it in the right way. Maybe the Yemenite way is the right way. I don't know. Anyway, this is one of the miracles of the creation, to understand and realize that God created the world with the Hebrew letters. It's not just another letter. It's not another language. It's the language that the world was created with. The language that we got the 10 commandments with. And this is what we have to hear and react. Not definitely not like Amalek, that's sometimes we go against the truth. Not those who hear and know the truth but do nothing about it, but know the truth and act accordingly. Do something about it. Change yourself, change your life. You see something happening, and here we have to understand. Unfortunately, we are today surrounded with a lot of ignorance about the Judaism. And we saw that last year that only 20% got out of Egypt, 80% were idol worshippers, and they stayed and they died in the darkness of the darkness plague. But there is a lot of meaning in this thing, because idol worshiper are those that we have also today, and they also dying in the darkness, because living according to our tradition is living is Torah. צדיקים במותם קוראים חיים, רשעים בחייהם קוראים מותים. In other words, if somebody doesn't go with the life of the Torah, he's not a human being. He's maybe a beast, but according to real life, he's not alive. And this is the darkness, the plague of darkness that covers him, and he cannot see the real light. He cannot see the real truth. And this is one of the things that we have to fight against and understand, that there are some of us that are in the darkness. And it doesn't mean that we have to let them stay in the darkness. We have to try and do something about it and act accordingly, and try each one with his powers. And like I told you last week, that the friend that his was participating in my shiur in Tehillim and Shabbos, and he said that he met somebody in a course, and they were talking about the Abu Yehuda Hanasi and the Mishnayot, the oral Torah, etc., etc. And he told me that this guy is now in a real way of Chazara B'Tshuvah. So I told him, you see, you always tell me, what can I do? You see, כל המציל נפש אחת מישראל כאילו קיים עולם מלא. If you save one soul, you save the whole world. So don't give up. We have to try and help our brothers. And even if we help to one or two, we did it. And that's it. And here we have to say, who am I that I can do those things? So is this a friend of mine told me a very beautiful story that was in the beginning of the 120th century with the meeting of the Agudat Israel, and there they were thinking about how to get all those lost souls, get them back to the tradition. So as one says, we need to have special learning for 10 years, and then they are going to be ready to help the others to come back in Tshuva to Am Yisrael, because you cannot just send somebody, and if he doesn't know how to do it, he is going to do more damage than good. So one of the guys, the rabbis, stood up and said, I want to tell you a story. This guy comes to this town and he asks for a glass of water. They give him a glass of water. I see the water is dirty. He says, well, what is this? You drink water like this? You can get ill. You have to clear the water. You have to purify the water. And they said to him, oh, wow, yes, you're right. And they started purifying the water. The funny thing is, it's not funny. A few months later, he comes to the same town and he sees almost the whole town is burned. He says, what happened here? He says, don't ask. There was a fire and we went to purify the water. Until we purified the water, the fire went and almost burned the whole town. He says, stupid people. When you have to turn off a fire, you take the water that you've got and you put a fire off. You don't start purifying. And said this guy to those that said that you need 10 years. If we wait 10 years and try to bring our brothers back to the tradition, there won't be nobody to save, because they all will be lost. We have to try, each one of us, which is power, which is God. Okay, you're not 100%, you're not the greatest tzaddik in the world, but you can help your brothers, even if you're not the greatest tzaddik. And this is, by the way, the answer to each one of us that says, who am I that I will go and convince somebody to do tshuva or come back to the tradition? Who am I? I'm just a simple guy. There is no simple guy. Every Jew's got powers, and we have to use those powers and try as long as we can, because if we don't do it, there will be nobody to save. This is, by the way, the reason that God took Am Yisrael from Egypt at that certain time, because they were so involved in idol worshipping that if God would have waited more years, there would be nobody to save. 80% stayed in Egypt. Can you understand it? So the big lesson for us is that when we do something, we have powers to do. And by the way, it's Yitro comes to Moshe and says, you cannot die. He was sitting there, and he is the the one that everybody comes to ask questions, to have if he has a problem with his friend, and he says, "What are you doing? You cannot sit alone and judge the people." And all the people are standing here for hours. It's degrading, and you cannot. And you yourself, can you do this? How long can you stand this? I'm going to give you an offer. I think you have to take people that are going to help you. You have to take judges that are going to help you. Sarei alafim, sarei meot, sarei asarot. And Moshe Rabbeinu agrees with him. And here is a big lesson for us. And the meaning is, for example, Rav Adam Sinai says, there is those people that are spontaneous. And those people that are very logical, they think on everything. Who would you like more? Who would you like more? The spontaneous guy. We like those spontaneous people. They do think, they are fun. But when we have a big question or problem, who are you going to ask? The guy that is spontaneous or the logical one, the one who thinks? Definitely the one who thinks. So here we have maybe an interesting point. Because from one point, sometimes in life you have to be spontaneous, and sometimes you have to be logical. And what do I mean? If every question that we have, we're going to ask the rabbi, what do we do in the morning when we get up to Esem Odeani? This is something that's got to be spontaneous, that you have to be like, you get used to it, you know how to do it automatically. Or what do you bless on the Tilat Yadayim? What is the prayers you say? What is Birkat Hamazon? All those things are things that they have to come automatically. If you have a big question, if this is kosher or this is not, then you go to the rabbi. And if it's the biggest question, you go to the bigger rabbi. And that's exactly what Yitro is telling to Moshe Rabbeinu. You cannot have every small thing getting to you. And this is Moshe Rabbeinu inside of us. What does it mean? And Rav Adam Sinai brings a story. This guy sits in a shiur, and they're learning, and he has something very interesting to tell his friend. So he's thinking, am I going to tell it to now or later on after the shiur? And then the coffee spilled on the table. Oh, what should I do now? Tell my friend the story, clean the table from the coffee, and suddenly he's got itching in his head. So what should I do now? Itch my head, clean the coffee that was spilled, or tell my friend the story I wanted to tell him? Thinking about this, the shiur was ended. In other words, instead of learning, he was so busy with thinking about what to do that he didn't do anything. The coffee was on the table. He didn't tell the story to the friend. He didn't scratch his head, but he missed the shiur. He missed the lesson. So this is exactly the point. You cannot everything start being logical to the end and think, what is the 100% point? Why do I do this or that? No, not everything. There are things that have to be spontaneous. You have to know, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm used to do. This is what I'm supposed to do. When I wake up in the morning, Modeh ani lefanecha. Thank you, God. When I go, Tilat Yadayim, Baruch Ata Hashem. When I go out of the toilet, Yasher Yatzar. Praying. This is thing that you don't go and ask the rabbi. You don't ask or yourself inside to start. What is the source? How do we get to the point of what? No. If you think of everything you do, you will do nothing. So what we really need is the combination. The guy inside of us should be spontaneous and rational, logical and spontaneous. And this combination will lead us to the good way. Understanding that when we're talking about hearing the Ten Commandments, hearing the Torah, it's not enough to hear. We have to act, we have to do. And each one of us got a talent and got a power to do. And there is nobody who can say, who am I to do this or that? And as we said, we have to try and teach and show the way also to our friends. Each one of us in the place he works or in the other place, we have to know that Vayishma Yitro, this Yitro inside of us, this is the right way to hear and act, even if it's not so convenient. And from the other way, don't be like Amalek. Go against it. So if you want something, so you turn everything and you go against it. And also don't be like those who know the truth hear the truth, and understand that they have to do something, do nothing. This is exactly Yitro. This is why he's got a parsha on him, on Yitro. Moshe ala Elokim. Moshe Rabbeinu goes up to God, and there is this midrash that said that he had an argument with the angels. I'm not going to go to the whole midrash, but the idea was, what has Moshe Rabbeinu have an argument with the angels? The angel says, we don't want you to take the Torah. He says, why do you deserve the Torah? So he's telling them, what do you mean? You're angels. You cannot practice the Torah. You cannot do anything. You cannot, you've got no lotinaf, you've got no emotions, you've got no lotirtzach, lotinaf. You should not murder, you should not commit adultery, you should do this, you shouldn't do that. Can you do that? You're angels. You cannot do those things. Oh, they all kissed him and hugged him and gave him the Torah, and what it's like, it sounds like a stupid argument. But to understand it more, there is this story about this great rabbi in a big town that unfortunately he got older, and he had an accident, and he was in hospital for many months. And when he got out of hospital, he says to the people in town, see, I cannot go on being your rabbi because I am weak and I haven't got the power as I used to have. And I had this now incident, and my wife also told me you have to stop. So maybe you'll find me in a small town, that there I can be a rabbi, and this also is going to be much calmer, and I can deal with it. So they said, okay, you're quite right. They found this small town. The small town, they were so happy that this great rabbi is going to be their rabbi. They couldn't believe it. When they came to pick up his stuff, the people of town didn't let them take the stuff. So they went to the rabbi, what's going on here? They don't let us take the stuff. So the rabbi comes and, what are you doing? He says, okay, you can go. They putting the stuff on the lorry, and the people of the town take them down. So they come against the rabbi, what's going on here? They don't let us take you. They don't let us take your stuff. So he comes to the people and says, what are you doing? He says, we want to explain you something. We don't want those people from this small town to think that we send you away because you haven't got the power anymore, and you cannot teach, and you're not very good with the Torah. No, we wanted to know them that we don't want you to leave, that we love you so much and we appreciate you so much that it's very hard for us to let you go to their town. And this is why we did all those problems, in order for them to understand it's not just you're going there because you are not as you used to be. No, you in your full power, and you have your right judgment, and you know Torah the best. And this is what we wanted those people to understand. This is exactly the argument with the angels. The angels want us to know how precious is the Torah, and how dear is it, or not just take the Torah and do whatever we want with it. No, you have to appreciate the Torah and understand that it is something that comes from heaven. And this is what we have to realize in our parsha when we get the 10 Commandments. To listen, Yitro, to listen to the 10 Commandments and to act accordingly. And also to help those who don't understand and don't know anything and don't have any excuses. I cannot do this. Because if there is a fire, you turn off the fire even with the dirty water, even if you are not 100% a tzaddik, but you know and you believe in God, so you have the power to have this influence, each one on who we can, like this guy in our shiur in Tehillim in Shabbos. All the best, and hear and act and do the best in the eyes of God.